It's time for Type 40, your Doctor Who podcast from the Spacebook for the Fandom Podcast Network, with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and the only one who knows where the jammy dodgers are really hidden around this old thing. And whether you're completely new to the show, our entire time stream, or you've been aboard before, you'll find an eclectic and eccentric, free-speaking, big-thinking show for everyone. Whatever decade or century you started watching, reading, or listening along to the ongoing adventures of our hero, Doctor Who, we chat about it all on this show. Try stopping us. There could even be some giggles along the way. So come and step into our TARDIS and share this journey together here with us on Type 40. And yes, the news desk, well, it was still sort of glowing. It was still very, very warm from the hot release of all that brand new Doctor Who news a few weeks ago that had us all talking. Never mind us, never mind the fan base. It had the entire media talking, didn't it? I think up and down the country, all over the world, everybody was talking about Doctor Who for all the right reasons. Once again, it was joyful. We're back right in the present at the moment, because as soon as that all happened, the BBC blew the klaxon, didn't they, on another brand new series of actual Doctor Who. They confirmed an air date and various bits of information for Series 13 of what we still kind of call New Who. Well, some of us, you know who you are, call it New Who. I call it something else. A little about that a bit later on. So yeah, with it, we've got a selection of images. We've had some disappearing and reappearing sites of all kinds. And there's names and confirmations and all the rest of it. And just as we were having so much fun too. But yeah, if I can relax, if I can see the funny side of all this, then I'm sure you can too, can't you? Yeah, so here we are with the time-honoured new series of Doctor Who previewed here on Type 40. We do this every time, and long-term listeners may remember that I've not been the biggest fan of this era, by my own admission. I gave it a good shake 2 or 3 times over, but I'll own up now. I've not got much left in the way of generosity towards any of the new material from this outgoing production team or the cast. Okay? But it's only 6 weeks, isn't it? Just 6 weeks. What's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, I said that last time, didn't I? And the time before. Okay, moving on. Let's bring on the 2 people who have very gamely offered to come and prop me up through this entire experience. Okay, familiar faces. If you're used to our Type 40 live streams on YouTube, you're going to recognise both of these. Firstly, let's see if she's feeling stunning and brave, or is she a weeping angel? Charlotte Shields, welcome to Type 40.
It depends which news we're talking about for that. Guess which one's which.
Well, we're going to get stuck in. We're going to get stuck into it all. Yes, it's very good of you to join me on this show at the beginning of, if not a new era, it's the final throes of an old one, isn't it? And you know, for all that I've just said, Charlotte, you know, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try and be as impartial as I can, and buckle in for another ride, because the Doctor Who community, it is about more than what's on television, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's the thing about this show. We like to get involved as fans, whether that's making our own little things, whether that's looking at listening to Big Finish or doing streams. We're a very active bunch.
It's always been that kind of community, I think, right from the days where people used to staple together fanzines and all the rest of it. And I think that many people have been inspired to go into not just TV, but publishing and TV production and acting based on Doctor Who. And yes, that is a cue. Because I can't quite believe that this man's agreed to come back after the New Year's show. So yes, he was here. He was here when we reviewed the New Year's Day special, which I can never remember the title of. You remember the one that was like weird shaped Daleks, and Captain Jack was kind of back, wasn't he? And then he was gone, and all the rest of it. Maybe Barnaby Jago will be able to remember some of the finer details of it and help me out here. Help an old boy out.
I just remember there was just pain. I remember just pain. Lots and lots of that, mostly. But no, it was a great time on that particular podcast anyway. And no, thank you for having me back.
We were both left somewhat lukewarm by that episode, weren't we? So somewhat. Whilst, it's hard to get out of a habit of watching a show like Doctor Who, isn't it? It's here we are, ready on the threshold of another batch of episodes. Do you feel dusted down and ready?
I feel the hangover has worn off, so I think I'm ready for the bombardment. I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, this is the thing as well. I go into these. There will always be a place in my heart for Doctor Who, and I will go in and, as you say, Dan, go in with a absolute free mind and just ready to just see what happens, and open mind, and I mean, we shall see, and we all know it's leading on to something better because Russell T Davies is coming back.
That's the spirit, because that's what happens, isn't it? They've dropped out various pictures and trailers, and when at this time, when it was the run into a new season, Charlotte, I used to get physically. Oh, I've got to be careful to say. Physically excited. I mean, the little hairs on my arms would stand up when I'd see a new trailer, and I would anticipate each new publicity photograph. I think that's a pretty universal feeling. So the fact that I don't feel that now, it does concern me, and I do feel a bit of a sense of loss about it. And I'm aware that some may make fun of me for saying that, but I'm speaking as honestly as I can, and I'm very aware that it's just not working for me this time. We're going to find out whether it's working for you two in a couple of minutes. But before we get too deep into all of that, I've got to remind you that if you want to do some real-time travelling of your own, each and every edition of this show, past, present, and future, is just a tap or two away on the device of your choice, if you know where to look. Dozens of great conversations, reviews, previews, geek-outs, and deep dives with our regular panellists. We know there's something for every fan at type40.podbean.com, and there'll be more about all of that a little later on, as well as our customary connecting call to the matrix of all knowledge we call the Fandom Podcast Network. Sorry, Kyle, I can't help but laugh with some of these things. For a word about all the other cult conversations going on all those other shows over there. Okay, so that's us warmed up. The Zyton 7 crystals, they're crackling away, aren't they? Yeah. Let's get into it with these guys' thoughts on some of the very latest Doctor Who news. Hold tight. Yeah, so just to refresh your memories, because it's been an intense few weeks, on Friday the 24th of September 2021, it was officially announced after several weeks, a handful of weeks, speculation that none other than Russell T Davies was to be the person who was going to take the TARDIS keys back from outgoing producer Chris Chibnall, and he'll be showrunning the series from 2023 onwards, from that all-important 60th anniversary. And series to follow, in inverted commas, is what we've been told. So we're not quite sure for how long this will be the case. But it was tremendously exciting. I don't think that's an exaggeration at all for anybody who's been enduring the last few years. But I think when one casts a mind back to a time when Doctor Who was at its most successful, then I think certainly as Brits, we think about the Russell T Davies era, that time. So where were you when you heard this news, Charlotte, and what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I just come in from work, and that's what I tend to do. I look at my messenger to see, or just to have a quick look, and I got 5 messages from different people, and I was just like, something's happened. I don't usually get this much people messaging me, and then I looked and it was the news of Russell, and I think it surprised me. Because I honestly thought, when I was thinking what they could do next, I thought we could possibly have a female showrunner. That's what I think. That's what I was thinking. They could go that route. And I was like, maybe, but
as a political decision, or was there any particular person that you had in mind that would have fit the bill for that?
Not really a person. I thought it could be a bit of politics, because obviously we've had, for all the modern run, because I know in classic they weren't known as showrunners, but they were obviously all males.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I've watched some shows which are female led. Like I'm a massive Witcher fan, and that's a woman who does that show. So it's not like that couldn't have worked. But a bit of the back of my head was thinking for political points, maybe that's what they were going to do. Yeah. And but no, Russell, a complete surprise. But it really makes sense when you think about it, because I think he knows how to do a reboot, and that's what I think they're going to have to do. I think they're going to have to do either not a full reboot, but sort of take that thing of taking it from a very fresh point without all the baggage of what's gone before and having a new starting point for people. And I think Russell then makes a lot of sense. And Bad Wolf, I think I'm just as excited actually for the Bad Wolf part of this, because they're separate from the BBC. Like this, I think this is the best we're going to get for Doctor Who being out of the hands of the BBC drama department, or let's be fair, out of the hands of Piers Wenger. So it's like I was quite happy about the bad news part of this, because it's commercial arm as well. They're going to have to make a profit. They're going to have to make money. They're going to have to make decisions which are actually going to be beneficial for the show, not just to please certain parts of the fandom. And I think that's what's got me just as excited, I think, than the Russell, because he's obviously the headliner. And I do have a lot of nostalgia with Russell.
That's the name that's getting all the attention, isn't it? And it does bring back certain sort of memories, doesn't it? Some kind of almost race memories for Doctor Who fans. The sights and the sounds of 2005 and 2006 and the height of the popularity, all that imagery.
Well, that's when I came on. That was my start of my journey with Doctor Who, was the Russell era with Christopher Eccleston, because I'd heard about it, because it's sort of part of the British landscape when it comes to culture and TV. Yeah. But I can just remember on BBC seeing the trailers with The Adventure of a Lifetime, when it was Chris and the fire and sort of such brilliant, and it just captured me. And then I remember going to my dad saying, "Oh, what's Doctor Who?" And he was like, and he wasn't a massive fan growing up, but he knew of it from the first run. And I remember he said to me, actually, and I'm always thankful, he was the one who said, "Give it a go," because he knows I'm into my sort of genre telly. I like fantasy. I like that sort of stuff. So he's like, "Give it a go. I think you'll like it." And then I've been a fan ever since. So Russell has got a bit of an emotional connection because of that with me.
Well, I think you were one of a whole generation of people, I think, up and down, certainly the UK, because it's a slightly slower rollout in the rest of the world. But it's a story that I've heard several times. And initially, I think there was that thing where family members would sort of pull children or young people in front of the TV and say, you may enjoy this. You just may think this is the best TV show you've ever seen. But when I heard this news, Barnaby, about Russell T Davies, obviously once the euphoria had died down, I spoke to some of the others, because we did a live show too that night. I also thought of you, because you sort of came to the show, didn't you, in the middle of the Wilderness years. And you've always, we've spoken at length, haven't we, about the new series, but you're not a huge fan of Russell's work in particular, are you? So how did this sit with you when this was announced?
I mean, it was kind of obvious why they were bringing him back, because, I mean, Charlotte's utterly nubbed on the head there. Yeah, he's good at doing the reboot. He was there at the very beginning, and it's almost, people have been talking about this all over the place, that the BBC are worried, so they're bringing him back in as well. So I remember when I first heard the news, it was a director friend of mine sent me the link to the article saying that he had come back. And I went through a mixture of emotions. To begin with, it was absolute excitement, because that was a name I remember, and I still think, I mean, certain episodes, particularly to his later years, like I still think Love and Monsters is still awful, and I don't know what on earth was Love and Monsters. And
you stick to your guns, mate. I agree with you. I agree with you. I can't stand it.
And also The End of Time, which I don't think was one of the best sort of finales in my opinion. But I still think back to the Christopher Eccleston first series, which was perfect. I think even as a kid then, I didn't really realize how perfect it was watching it, because I was too used to the classic series. So numerous emotions: excitement, and then suspicion, fear, and then back to excitement tinged with a bit of plausible. We shall see how it goes. Yeah. And I think it all just sort of depends, because he's been doing very well. Years and Years was brilliant. I liked Years and Years. What else? I still need to see that other show that is huge.
It's a Sin.
It's a Sin. Yes, I still need to see that, but I heard it's fantastic. And also Very English Scandal, which was one of my favorite things to come out that year. I loved him. Very English Scandal. That was really good fun. So he is a good writer. We will just have to see. Again, we'll just have to see. I don't know, Dan.
And it's such a long time to wait as well, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
Yeah, we look at Russell T Davies and we see that familiar. He's a very, very tall man, but he's so distinctive in the way that he speaks, in the way that he looks, and he has this energy about him. And this is a man who's pushing 60 years of age now. And he still has a childlike glee somehow when it comes to Doctor Who. I can't but warm to it all over again. And he's been speaking publicly about various things, and you could say that he's got more. I'm not going to say he's become this big social justice warrior, because I think Russell T Davies is above that. I think most of us. I think we should all strive to be above that, certainly above being partisan. But I think Russell's always had a voice. Russell has always had convictions, and he's never shied away from talking about them. But I feel that he is he's somebody who understands, certainly not just Doctor Who, but British culture too, and how we as television viewers, in this case, Charlotte, how we relate to the images that are beamed into our homes and the stories that funny little box insists on telling us. I think he understands that relationship between the television audience and what's on screen and those who make it. I think that he would never abdicate that responsibility. Am I lifting this too high? I do wonder if I hold this guy in too much esteem.
No, I don't think you do, because he is political. When he does interviews, when he does stuff outside of his work, you're right, he never has shied away from his politics. He's known for it. And I have a rule, like when it comes to telly now, because of the state stuff's getting into, you can have your politics if you're a writer, if you're an actor, if you're a producer, but as long as that doesn't bleed into your show, and I feel like you are lecturing me, then you can have as much politics in, like I said, in interviews, in real life almost, as you want. You can say what you want relatively for me. And I think Russell understands that if you want to have a message, if you want to sort of weave in anything to do with the real world, that has to be secondary. That cannot be your priority. It's like, sort of to link what Barnaby was saying, as a kid when I was watching Series 1 with Chris, I didn't realise World War III was a massive allegory for Tony Blair's government and the whole Iraq situation. I didn't pick that up, but watching it when I got older, I was like, oh, I see what he's doing here. And that's what Russell understands. You need to almost disguise your politics.
To just hold the mirror up slightly, Barnaby, rather than push us all through it.
Yeah, I still think, though, that he's still going to have that politics in there. And I wouldn't be surprised if a particular branch of politics becomes more overt, because that sort of standard of politics that he's always believed in is almost like Doctor Who's now been touting that for ages now. So I think the fact that it's almost like connected with it now, we may not like that, but it has been connected to it now. So I wouldn't be surprised if that political stance and the lecturing will stay in the series with Russell Davies at the helm.
See, that's what I'm saying, though. I think it's going to be a different style. It's not going to be the way Chris and Whittaker have been doing it, which is
less overt. Then it's less overt. Yeah, okay. Like, I mean, if that's possible, it's
like, look at Orphan 55. We literally had a moment of the Doctor stood in front of the camera telling us we're all terrible people because of the environment. Versus, because I was just thinking about this over the weekend. Think about Turn Left. Look at what the topic area of that episode is. It's certain. I won't say it on stream, but it's a certain time of history in Germany. That's what that episode is tackling.
No, I see exactly.
And it's one line. This is what I'm saying. Russell's way of doing things. He could have had a whole moment of a whole speech, but all he said was all he wrote was Will saying, That's what they said the last time. And that's all that was needed.
So what you're suggesting really is that Russell may indeed have chosen to have told a similar story to Orphan 55, but he would have never have made his points in that way. He would never have put those words in the Doctor's mouth, and he would never have had the sort of breaking the fourth wall. He's a better writer than that, isn't he?
Yeah.
No more gimmicks required. He's a man, I feel, Barnaby, who writes characters particularly well, builds characters well.
Oh yeah. There have been some. There have been some fantastic. Wilf was still one of my sort of like favorite characters when he turned up there, and and I think if it's I think you're right, Charlotte. If it's subtle, if it's entertaining, stick that political stuff in there, absolutely. So hopefully it'll be like that, and getting some. It'd be nice to see some, the old sort of like Russell T Davies kind of like characters as well. A new like Russell T Davies character we can sink our teeth into.
People who feel alive, Barnaby.
Yeah. Not just cardboard cutouts. An actual, character with hopes and wants and a background that's interesting and you remember. I can't even remember many of the characters from the last series, or maybe I've just tried to just repress them.
No, it's because there's nothing to remember, because they're hollow, and it's been 3 years now since this era began on television. Since we have known who Yasmin Khan is now for 3 years. We've seen her on screen. She's the one who stands next to the Doctor now and again with her mouth open. Yeah. But we have no idea who she is as a person. Not barely remotely. We've had little hints of a something, maybe of a childhood, and we've seen some ambition somewhere, but none of it's been writ large. None of it's been followed through. And Russell would never leave a character like that. When I think back to how he was with Martha Jones, a character I just thought was delightful.
She was great.
He felt when he created that character and her story played out through series 3, Charlotte, as he was writing it, he let the character's voice and journey take its natural course. And he realised that the character was heading to a place that was quite finite. So rather than sort of undo his own writing and not be true to the voice that I think he feels he channels the voices of these characters. I think he sometimes forgets that he's created them and they live inside his head. And he saw Martha's journey reaching a natural conclusion. And rather than unnaturally try to extend it, he brought it to a close in a way that would tell us even more about the character and be seen as a development for her, even if she was going to be taken off screen and out of the Doctor's company, which would ultimately be in a very productive and a very positive and empowering way. It just meant that she was off screen and out of the show for a little while. And I don't think that's not just Chris Chibnall. I think there are very few writers that can do that. I honestly think that Russell T Davies is the greatest living British scriptwriter working in television because of things like that, but integrity and truth.
Yeah, and I think he also he knows that to make any character interesting, you have to give them faults. You have to give them sort of.
Absolutely.
If you look at all of Russell's characters, from Rose to even the Doctor, and to be fair, in all this talk about who's he going to cast, I'm more interested in what Doctor he's going to write, because his first 2 Doctors had the backdrop of the Time War. That was a big event in the Doctor's life. He was, even by David Tennant's version, he was still getting over it. He was better than Eccleston, but you could still see that pain, that anger, that sort of darkness.
Pathos was an essential part of it, wasn't it? And so I'm not saying that it wasn't with what Stephen Moffat did. When you're right, when I look back to those 4 seasons, even though there was that change of actor part way through, that did very much remain, and one can't help but wonder if that's going to be an element to anything that he may write in the future. What will he create to fill that vacuum, to sort of to reach into and to pull out all these extra elements to the Doctor's character, because the Doctor never needed any more gimmicks. He certainly never needed to change gender. All it really needs are for experiences and for the universe around him to change and evolve, and for him to react to it, to either to get pulled along by it or to actively be a contributor to some sort of events. It doesn't really matter which one of the two.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see where it goes either. I've got a quote here from Russell T Davies, Charlotte, I wanted to remind you of here. And he said that I'm beyond excited to be back on my favourite show. But we're time travelling too fast. There's a whole series of Jodie Whittaker's brilliant Doctor for me to enjoy with my friend and hero Chris Chibnall at the helm. I'm still a viewer for now. So again, Russell, as diplomatic as ever, as professional as ever.
Certainly sums it up very well.
Yeah. And apparently that is Russell's very own Dalek that he's there leaning against in his own garden. This is all part of with images like that, and okay, you think, okay, is Chris Chibnall really your hero? Whatever, I'll take whatever. But I'm beyond excited to be back on my favourite show, considering that when he's been interviewed over the last few years, he's even been cornered on the red carpets and at events and things, and people have gone, do you ever get any more ideas for Doctor Who? And he always shuts them down right away. And I think that's partly professional integrity too, Barnaby. When somebody else is running the show and fueling it with ideas, never wanting to step on their toes, always maintaining that distance, always respectful, always dignified, and always, as a writer, thinking how, if he was in the other person's shoes, how would he take it? How would he respond if he saw the guy who used to do his job sort of bigging it up and going, I've got this idea and that idea. That's what it's that kind of integrity. I can't help but admire that.
Yeah.
But the BBC sort of rolls on, and over the last few weeks, things have continued. And I suppose the one fly in the ointment really is the fact that we've this sort of this bulk of it's kind of like fire damage stock that they've got to shift in the meantime, really, isn't it? from what's left of the Chris Chibnall era. So they started the rollout. And Chris Chibnall hasn't been very vocal during his tenure. He's perhaps a shyer man, slightly more introverted character, doesn't enjoy the circus as much as a Russell T Davies, for example, does, or in the way that Stephen Moffat does. Who does all that sort of self-deprecating humour that I think all of us enjoy quite a lot. So it's kind of fallen to the head of drama and various other people, BBC personnel, to kind of to get this engine going again, and for all the various bits of press releases, because there's been a few press releases, but more with tiny morsels of information that have popped out in the time since. I don't think we're going to hear anything from Russell for quite a while, but everybody else, you can't seem to stop them rabbiting. So, there was a big press event on Monday, the 11th of October, where top BBC bellend and BBC head of drama, Piers Wenger, he was speaking, and they asked him specifically about the Russell T Davies situation, and he said that bringing back Russell for Doctor Who was one of the least painful decisions I've ever had to make. How will he evolve that show? So that's kind of what you were saying there, Charlotte. But he points out that he is a man with a vision for sure, but we are way off filming. And then he leads into this as well. We've got a whole year of Jodie to go yet. Lots of adventures ahead for her. And so I think it's just a bit too early to say what his vision will be. So they're basically telling us to hold our horses there, aren't they, Charlotte?
Oh, yeah, because a few of us have said it's a bit of an odd time to announce Russell. It's like you've just got the end of a Doctor coming up. You've got the end of an era. And then you do this massive press announcement of Russell. And they knew that, the fans, that would take up the attention completely. Because even the BBC in the last couple of years have almost given up, it feels like, with the current run. They hardly promote it. And the promotion, which I'm guessing we'll get onto soon, for the series that's due out at the end of this month, has been really pathetic. It's been hardly anything. So it's sort of, you can see they've been sort of put themselves in an awkward position, I think, the BBC and Piers.
Well, it's been... Firstly, let's accept, I'm going to acknowledge now that there are people, and if you're one of these people out there who are very excited about what's to come in Series 13 of Doctor Who, then we are here for you too. We get it, we understand it, and we're going to cover it all. Of course we are. So, and we're more than happy to hear other opinions. But I couldn't help but be aware, because I have several friends who do really enjoy this era of Barnaby and are very invested in it, and they were getting so frustrated that there was so little that was coming at all, right up until transmission. And it does make you wonder if they've just lost the touch, lost the way of interpreting the needs of the viewing public and a fan base, because it started with the appearance above Albert Dock in Liverpool of this spacecraft, which apparently was a hologram. Did anybody see this hologram spacecraft that was apparently over Liverpool a couple of weekends ago?
No, I've never seen this one. It's a Sontaran ship, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how it seems. It does seem to be one of the Sontaran ships from Series 4 of Doctor Who, and it was apparently some sort of giant hologram. But they left it hanging there, didn't really say a great deal about it. I would imagine this would be quite expensive.
Yeah, it's an expensive effect, and no promotion around it. Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even know how you'd go about doing that. But yeah, they did seem to sort of let it idly pass them by. Yeah. And I think all the potential for having something like that turn up maybe all over the country all at the same time, as if there was some sort of invasion going on. They didn't really, I would say they didn't jump at that. They didn't go with it at all. So that did confuse me a little. But what we did get was what I can only describe as a stunt, whereby all of the social media accounts were taken down. So we're talking Twitter, we're talking Facebook and Instagram, and all the videos were removed from the homepage of the YouTube channel. Did you catch any of that, Charlotte?
Oh yeah, I caught it, and I just thought, this is such a silly way to promote the series, because
it didn't fool you then, because lots of people seem to think, "Oh my God, it's all gone down. Doctor Who's disappeared." So it didn't fool me. It didn't fool you either, obviously.
No, because it reeks of what this era is, which is the most lazy, simple way to do things. They will do that route, and taking down your Twitter for 24 hours isn't that much of a stretch. You can just press a button and do it. So it reeks of the current era's way of doing things to me.
It's a bit tacky, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is. It's for a world-class show, Barnaby.
Just sort of like, just shut down everything. Oh, no. Oh, what are we going to do? It's like a full-on blackout. Oh, wait, no, everything's fine.
And there was a hashtag, Barnaby. There was a hashtag, "Where is Doctor Who?" But the BBC created that hashtag. It wasn't something that came from the fan base.
It's such a... I don't know. I mean, I did hear when this whole thing was going down. I literally just glanced up and went... It didn't make me excited at all. I thought it may have been some kind of like technical mishap, because I wouldn't put it past them. But no, it just didn't really make me wonder or worry at all. But then I'm not that socially medially minded for an actor.
But this is what I don't understand. Like, for the audience to do this to, it's so small. It's just social media, and we've all said the sort of public interest for this show is at the lowest it's ever been. So if you're going to do any promotion, it needs to be big. It needs to be in the face of the British public. And to do
to concentrate it just on social media when only really quite a small percentage of the country are on Twitter, for example.
Yeah, and also, let's be fair, not every Doctor Who fan, if you even just want to think about it this way, not every Doctor Who fan is really active on Twitter or on YouTube or on social.
Even if they have an account, they may just look now and again.
Yeah, so they're not going to see this. So it's like, even if you're giving them the benefit of the doubt and said, well, maybe they're trying to get like the youth or like certain audience online, that's not the whole Doctor Who fandom. You need to get something that's going to grab everybody, which this isn't going to do.
I often see it said now from dissenting voices mainly, admittedly, that the BBC does put too much importance on the audience that do spend their lives on Twitter. I use Twitter myself. I've met some really nice people on Twitter, had some nice exchanges and built up some nice relationships on Twitter. And I do think it can be quite a creative space. But it is a home to some pretty extreme behaviours. And in Doctor Who circles, sometimes it's an absolute dumpster fire. And people are hyper sensitive all the time. And these hashtags can often whisk up just around the most innocuous things that the average person in the street, and certainly the average viewer who makes up probably 99% of Doctor Who's viewing audience, Barnaby, they wouldn't even give any of it a passing thought to. So if the BBC have targeted most of their publicity campaign for Series 13 at present, because we're still a couple of weeks away from transmission at time of recording, they've targeted it all at social media users. Like Charlotte said, it's only just hit home since you've said that. That does strike me as being a bit foolhardy as well, when they really do have something to prove with these episodes, haven't they?
Yeah, well, foolhardy, but then I just sounds lazy to me. Just sounds just lazy, like Charlotte said. Yeah, just shut off the Twitter and then just put it back on again, and then just announce it there. I mean,
they so badly need Ed Russell or somebody with his flair and imagination and sense of now, sense of tomorrow, even about media and about what may excite us, what may get our attention, rather than our pity and scorn. I don't like sounding like a grumpy old man, but because I like using social media. I'm not as down on social media as a lot of people are, as maybe you are. I'm not. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But come on, is this really the best you can do, BBC? Because when it came back up, there was a vivid image that went along with it, and you couldn't help but wonder, what was it going to look like this time? There's so much to prove in these remaining episodes, and everything they've given us so far since Chris Chibnall took the reins, it's all been a little bit bland. And then it launched, then it dropped that Doctor Who was back for 6 episodes from the 31st of October, Sunday the 31st of October 2021. That's Halloween night, under the umbrella title, everybody, of Doctor Who Flux. Yeah.
That's our reaction, folks.
Very
That's how excited
title.
we are.
Yeah.
I mean, never judge a book by its cover, but still.
We've got this image with the rainbow pattern again, haven't we? Behind a solitary figure of Jodie Whittaker. They insist she plays the Doctor. I've not seen much evidence of that myself. But there she is, again, dead centre of it all, looking like she's made of stone or something. The colours are really the same as ever. They got that sort of amber feel to them, and the all-important rainbow there, Charlotte. When in doubt, plaster rainbows everywhere, because people cannot criticise that without criticising all those issues and all those identities that come along with it. Again, I feel this is incredibly lazy and lacklustre, and I get that a lot of shows in the 21st century, the Orville, for example, I love the Orville, the Hulu show that's coming back in March. They've just announced that's going to be called the Orville New Horizons for its 3rd season. So a lot of shows doing this are running with these sort of umbrella titles. Why does this sound so uninspiring? Why isn't it working for Doctor Who?
Because it is uninspiring. Because this is Chibnall. He can't think of anything interesting when it comes to naming villains. I mean, think about what we've had. We've had Tim Shaw. We've had... What was that little thing that looked like Stitch if he was on drugs?
The Pating.
The Pating. Think about all his aliens he's created and what he's named them. They're the most uninspiring names. And it just... That's what I sort of said on the Type 40 Facebook. All I said was, Flux? Really? Because it just... It doesn't excite you as a title, especially as now, with what we know, what dropped after this, that this is what the big sort of bad is, or the big sort of powerful force that's going to be a big part of this series. That's the name.
It does sound like something that you clean your drains out with, doesn't it, Bob?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, I suppose this is probably their version of Trial of a Time Lord, really, I suppose.
I think so. Yeah,
I
think that's...
Get one big sort of serial coming out until it's rebooted and we try something else.
All joking apart, yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do.
I mean, Trial of a Time Lord was good. I mean, we may be surprised. I mean, just maybe the uninspiring title, and I mean, there was action going on in the trailer. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Do we feel though that for everything we said about the British public, and okay, they've probably lost count of the amount of series of Doctor Who they've been since it's come back now, but umbrella titles, subtitles, it's only really going to be the fans that are going to pay any attention to that. I think there's a genuine danger that in the multimedia age, and with a really quite nothing subtitle like Flux, Charlotte, that the general public may not even realise that this is a series of Doctor Who. It depends on how often they show those trailers. Because there are all those, if you think about all those smartphone games that they put out, and various other things, Time Fracture, the event that you can go to in London, all these different subcategories to the Doctor Who brand. If I can't remember which one is which, the general public, they're not going to really know. Is this a series? Is it something for my smartphone? Why have I heard that before? Where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, Doctor Who Flux was a card game that I picked up for my nephew last Christmas or the Christmas before. It's just seems to be more confusion, Charlotte.
I think what Chibnall's trying to do, he's trying to make his last series stand out. That's the vibe I get with the fact that it's not like a monster a week anymore. It's not separate stories. He's doing this serialized 6-part, and I think he's trying to almost, like I said, make this big song and dance to get attention. But I just think, why are you doing this in your last series? This is like why are you suddenly seeming to want to stand out now? You should have been doing this before. Why do it now? It just seems a little bit.
It's because he's got Russell coming after him.
Oh yeah, it's very much like I said. I think a few of us have said this when we've talked privately. The whole promotion so far just feels a bit desperate. It feels like they're just clutching straws almost and sort of trying everything to get this final run of hers to get any sort of credence.
I suppose, Barnaby, that and I'm gonna say this from the heart as well. Realistically, stepping back from the situation about this show, over the last 18 months, it's kind of a miracle with the nature of the pandemic and a series of 3 lockdowns, I think maybe even 4 in Wales, that they've managed to film anything at all. And I don't want to pee all over the chips of the dedicated cast and production crew who have turned up for work throughout these testing times, and who have made these, well, all in all 9 episodes that we're going to get over the next year or so. They've got them in the can, got them produced, got some new Doctor Who to our screens at all. I suppose that's a disclaimer that we should all sort of acknowledge, really, and say well done in that respect. But this material will stand and fall ultimately on what's on screen, on the story told, won't it? And the telling of a story does start with these promotional images in the 21st century, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what we see, you do judge a book by its cover. That's the thing. We'll just have to kind of like go and see. I mean, I'm going to watch through it, and we'll sort of see. But the excitement hasn't been built up. It hasn't been built up in the promotion for me, and it's just sort of like, even the trailer, just kind of like watching, it's just been like, I mean, new Sontarans, that's cool, but even then I have to kind of like drag myself to kind of like think that, because there's just been so much in the past of this show in this new era, which has just tainted it a little bit. And with the announcement of Russell T Davies, there's that renewed hope at the end of the horizon, but then we still have this year to get through.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
absolutely, exactly that. And that just sums it up.
I mean, when we first got the first trailer was a teaser trailer, Charlotte. You know what? It only lasted 20 seconds, and I couldn't be bothered watching it. Just 20 seconds of my time. I watched it 2 days ago. 20 seconds of my time, and I couldn't be bothered. Now, I know that's just me speaking and being a little cynical. I've been open how I feel about this. I'm completely disenfranchised. But when I did see it, all I got was more of that breaking the fourth wall of Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor telling me that I've got to be excited. There's this, there's that, there's the other. Trying to convince me. Like a wasp at a picnic, there she is all over again. And it just turned me right off.
Yeah, no, I watched it because I'm also going to be watching Series 13. So I was like, I need to start watching the trailers a bit more now and actually sort of almost dipping my toe in and getting ready. And I'm going to be honest, and for people who don't know my opinion, I don't like Jodie Whittaker's portrayal. I really think that she is doing a really bad impression. And when she's not doing a bad impression, she's failing miserably to get the sort of essence of the Doctor. I really think she's the first actor, and I'm saying, I'm saying this as somebody who doesn't like, for example, Colin Baker's Doctor, but I will not. Yeah.
Fight and talk.
But you know what, Barnaby? I will not. I will say he's a Doctor. I just don't like that incarnation. But I will never doubt he's a Doctor because he's got that authority. He's got that presence about him.
Feels like the Doctor, yeah.
Whereas with Jodie, I'm sorry, there's no authority when she speaks. She hasn't got that presence. And in this 20 seconds, all I saw was a woman shouting at me. That is all that came across.
Every time they do things like this is yet another idea that we've seen before, Barnaby. There was a Peter Capaldi set of trailers that were very similar to this, weren't there?
At the beginning of his last series, there were, I think.
Yeah, I seem to remember that it wasn't a million miles away from this at all. And so you do wonder, is there anything left that we haven't seen before?
I think that was when that kind of like style of promotion was starting to really kind of like set in. So they sit down these actors and say, here's the script, and, just nag them. Yeah. And Peter was, yeah, I remember those ones, actually. He was very sort of naggy, which was rather kind of odd. But that always seems to be a new way of sort of promotion now, kind of like, just tell your audience, shame your audience if you don't watch it.
You will be excited. You will get on board. You will be excited.
You will get on board. Yeah, and it's just like, entice us. What have you got? Don't just tell us. Entice us. It's all the... Sorry.
I was going to say, I've got a question for both of you once you finish, Barnaby. Can you see any difference in her Doctor in that 20 seconds from what she was doing in Series 11? Because I cannot see any development whatsoever.
I'm afraid not.
That's a stark and great point. I actually think she's got worse in the role. I think that the more that people have been telling her how great she is, it's actually made her try even less. And the last time I felt that I saw an actress trying to get under the skin of this character was in Rosa, an episode that I don't particularly like. I don't think she's tried from that moment on, and the character has gone backwards. I think because the material has gone backwards too. I think when I look back to Series 12, every opportunity that he got, Chris Chibnall separated the Doctor from her fam. And sometimes even from the entire plot. I'm thinking of the episode about Edison. She was basically removed from that entire narrative and put somewhere else. And other episodes as well that had that problem. It only seems to matter that she's present. And I think that happened to a certain degree with Bradley Walsh in Series 12 too. He just stopped trying completely. But yeah. I think she's very aware that Jodie Whittaker's very aware that she's at the dead centre of the show, that she's the one that everybody's looking at. And that could be why we get more flailing arms, more silly voices, more wide eyes. The harder she tries to be seen, the worse the characterization gets, because there's even less truth to it. You're absolutely right. There is no development whatsoever. I hate having to say this over and over again. It's absolutely diabolical. And I I'm sorry, I do. People, the amount of times I see, you can't blame Jodie. Of course you can blame Jodie. She's nearly 40 years of age. She's been acting for 20 years. You know, okay, she listened to Chris Chibnall about whether she was going to be right for this role or not, and she trusts this man. I get that. I understand that. I can even respect that. But at some point in the last 3 years, struggling in this role, it's to see it over and over again. It's really hard to watch. I'm not without empathy for the woman. Of course I'm not. But I haven't got a TV license anymore, partly because of this bloody awful show. So I just feel for the people who are still paying for this. You are paying for this. If Doctor Who means something to you, is a really important show for you, whether you consider whether you're going to continue being a customer of the BBC or not, and this is what you get. It's just not bloody good enough. And of course the writers have to take a huge amount of the responsibility. That's when we come to the next part, the balance of all this, because it does turn out that the 6 episodes that are going to make up this Doctor Who Flux season, as it is, Doctor Who Flux, yes, 6 episodes of brand new Doctor Who that are coming our way. They are all, Barnaby, all of them are going to be written by Chris Chibnall. So I did wonder why we hadn't had any confirmation of writers yet. But it has been revealed exclusively in Doctor Who magazine that was published the other day that Chris Chibnall is writing all 6. 5 of them, it's a sole writing credit. And there's going to be 1 episode. He's going to be sharing the writing credit on episode 4, with Maxine Alderton, who was the writer of The Haunting of Villa Diodati in series 12, which was it was one of the least offensive of the episode.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about all this, Barnaby? 6 episodes of concentrated Chibnall. Could this continuity be a good thing, or where are you leaning there? You're shocked?
I am speechless. I think it'll just be, I'm afraid it'll just be more of the same. It'll just be more of the same. And I mean, unless he's had some sort of like revelation and he's been lifted out of the darkness and into the light and, wants to, round his characters well, actually write, not lecturing dialogue and actually, have a kind of, and for goodness sake, just get rid of the whole, unless these whole episodes are really just him unwriting the Timeless Child. I mean, I'd be happy with that. I think it'll be an utter success if that's the end.
Bring it on, Chris. Bring it on.
Yeah, do it. Do it, Chris. But if it's just more of the same, then there she is. Then it'll just be exactly what we've been complaining about, I'm afraid.
It does worry me. And whilst I understand, Charlotte, that this is a man who this set of stories, this arc, for want of a better phrase, could be his parting shot with Doctor Who. Stephen Moffat has never come back to it since his time as showrunner and wrapped up. And Russell T Davies, for all intents, it looked like he was done with it. This could very well be Chris Chibnall's parting shot with Doctor Who. If this is the last Doctor Who story that this man ever tells across 6 hours, he must feel like there's something extra special about this. Barnaby's got his doubts. I've got nothing. What are your thoughts? Have you got a tiny drop of hope?
No, because this is Chibnall. And I'm sorry, he's had 2 series as having his own episodes in his 2 series to show us what he can do. So it's not like we haven't given this guy a chance. It's not like he's had ample opportunity to even just have 1 episode that you've gone, do you know what? That was actually really good, Chris. The rest of your episodes were terrible. But you actually did well for this one. Like, we've not had that moment with him. And I think he can't do long-form development. And this is what this whole 6-part serialized story is going to heavily depend on. Because if you think about how he's done the Timeless Child arc, which seems to be the only thing he's done of substance so far, he's not like put little hints throughout both of his series. He's not had like a natural development to it. No. He just had 1 mention in series 11, which was very flippant, and then suddenly in series 12, halfway through, we got a new Doctor. So we all just went, what's going on? And then at the end of series 12, we got the big info dump, and it was just Sasha, the Master, who I do really like Sasha, and I think
I like him too.
I think under another regime, he could be one of the best masters we've had. Honestly, I think he's got that in him. He's saddled with Chibnall, because all his role is in that finale was just to basically once again talk to the audience and say, "Here's your new law." Like, they didn't do anything with it.
Boom! So, like somebody was slamming something down on the table in front of you. You've got to like it or not. This is what you've got to learn, get on board with, or you are an awful person.
Yeah, so I do suspect that the reason why he's doing all of basically the whole series is the BBC, when they were giving him his notes and like his things he has to improve for this series. I wouldn't be surprised if they basically said, "You've done this massive mess with the Timeless Child. You've put the show at this state. It's now up to you to fix it. It's now in your door, basically, to get this show."
And I suppose, Charlotte, that initially there would have been 10 episodes in this season 2, and the necessities of the pandemic. You know, we know that was curtailed. We'll never. We may well know eventually exactly why this happened. I believe that they told him to wrap it up and wrap this story arc up probably before the pandemic. I think that they would have seen the response to Series 12 and have read the room, so to speak. But you do wonder if he had always had a mind for there to be a third set of 10 episodes, did he just cut away the slots, the 4 extraneous slots for potentially other writers, and do a Joe Michael Straczynski, really, do a Babylon 5. I thought, okay, I'll pack all the arc. It's going to be arc heavy. There's going to be none of these are going to be Monster of the Week. It's all going to be dense lore. And,
but he's going to have to. That's the thing. He's left himself so much work to do, because, like I said, in that finale, he didn't really go into the Timeless Child. He just told us. So we're going to have to unpack. Like, all we know so far from that episode is the Doctor was found, he'd been chucked out of a wormhole or whatever that was in the sky, was found by Tecteun, and then she discovered regeneration.
Can't say that name without laughing. It is a very, very silly name, Chris. Shame on you. You know, I think when I see, because we've had as well, when they announced the writers and everything else, we got a second, much better poster artwork than the first. We get to see Yaz, played by Mandip Gill once again, and we've got John Bishop as this new character, Dan West, stood there too. But when I see, and it's a perfectly nice image, it's all very sort of Willy Wonka, just like all the other artwork that we've had for this series. A little bit bland. But when I stare at the three of them together, I realise that even though one of these characters we know nothing about, we haven't even met Dan West yet, played by Don Bishop.
I think we know exactly who he's going to be.
Oh God, yeah. So even though we haven't met the character officially yet, we've got our feelings about that. But I was thinking, looking across to Mandip Gill on the same poster, and realising I don't really know Yaz anymore, so I feel like yet again I'm waiting for these next to total strangers. There's no old friends here for me, for us. It's just people, you know, same faces, but I couldn't tell you who they are. And how can I be pleased to see them if I don't know them? I don't feel like I've travelled anywhere with them. I don't mean planets and stuff. I mean travelled anywhere with them. They've not grown. Exactly what you said, Charlotte. The Doctor's not grown. Yaz hasn't grown, Barnaby. And there's this new guy who, you know, it's the bloke from the Win-A-Lot adverts or whatever it is that John Bishop's done before. Or I may have seen him do a stand-up gig at the Scunthorpe Baths or something. You don't know. It's somebody who brings their own baggage and brings their own personality. So how much of this is payoff from three screen years of television? Chris Chibnall's been on the show for the best part of 5 years. Oh, and there's nothing there apart from colourful posts. That's all there are, is rainbows. That's all there is. No substance whatsoever.
Well, they almost, I'll say, like, I'm like you. I like the background. I think that's one of the better background sort of art they've done.
I love a pretty picture.
But the Jodie and Dan and Monique just look like they've been stuck on. It's almost like they don't fit.
Get the clip art, yeah, a little bit.
Do you get like clip art? Like they've just gone zoop, like that, and like that's another thing. Like even a small thing with Jodie, and I've said this like on other streams I've done. She's not even changed her costume. Like there's nothing has changed with this Doctor.
Well, the shirt changes every so often.
I know, aren't we lucky?
I'm not the biggest fan of that poster. I think it just seems a bit too gaudy for me. It's pretty much Sixth Doctor's coat, just like blasted on.
You know what, Barnaby? I think I'm just relieved that it makes me feel something.
What,
yeah, it's more just comparison to what we've had before. If that was the first poster we'd seen from the era, it'd be something different. But we've just had bland.
I don't know. No, not really for me. Just a bit too.
We'll see when we come back from our break if we have something that excites us a little bit more, because this has to be the point that I remind you that as well as all these ramblings and rumblings through the time vortex here on Type 40, there's a whole universe full of unmissable geeky talk going on all the other shows across the Fandom Podcast Network. And yes, here is our friend Kevin with a few words about all of that. And then you can meet Barnaby, Charlotte, and myself back here for more talk about Series 13 of Doctor Who. Stick with us. Help us through something.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to these other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, discussing the latest in entertainment pop culture. Bloody Kings, Immortals Take Notice, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theaters, where we celebrate our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie and TV pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville show. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our show covering the time-traveling Doctor Who universe with host Dan Hadley. Lethal Mullet, an 80s and 90s action film podcast with host Adam P. O'Brien. Also check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast with hosts Scott, Derek, and Nathan. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. And check out our newest shows, The Fandom Show, our monthly Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube exclusive show about the month's hottest topics in fandom, and the FPN True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Marvel television and streaming MCU universe, including the connections to the original Marvel comics. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on several platforms. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel to receive notifications of new podcast episodes and live events. You can enjoy all of the Fandom Podcast Network audio podcasts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. The Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and iTunes. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find the Fandom Podcast Network on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network and on Twitter at FanPod Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Yes, we've teased and tantalised you there, and we can even clothe you too. There's merch to match all of that. All those logos and everything else from all the other shows, including Type 40, if you head over to tpublic.com. Search for the Fandom Podcast Network, and you'll find a store full of all the team colours, but all of the podcasts on everything from those T-shirts to phone cases and even tapestries that will fill your wall, even if you live in a TARDIS. Seeing is believing. Treat yourself, treat your other selves, and it all goes to support the Fandom Podcast Network into the bargain, so everybody wins. I'm back here with Charlotte Shields and Barnaby Jago for more up-to-the-minute Doctor Who news talk. We're going to try and cheer ourselves up a little bit now, do our very, very best, because, yeah, we had a trailer, a proper trailer eventually, everybody, one that lasted for longer than 20 seconds and actually gave us a little bit of Doctor Who flavour, I think. Yeah, a bit like it was like eating one of those big bags of hula hoops that covered in Doctor Who flavour. But the problem with hula hoops, I often find, is that once you've cracked them and got that instant hit, couple of burps at best and you're empty, aren't you? There's not a great deal else to enjoy. So what I want to know... Yeah, where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is that trailers are trailers. They are what they are. They're puff pieces. They're bits of publicity. And in Doctor Who past, the history of Doctor Who, God, I can't help but think back to the Russell T Davies era, year after year. Sometimes they were very simplistic trailers, but they always pulled you in. They always compelled you to watch. I think it wasn't just us. It was the casual audience too, and people year by year during the Russell T Davies era, and I think that did continue to some extent in the Moffat era too, were turning up to see what all the noise was about. In this latest trailer, we had plenty of sights and sounds that were familiar, didn't we? We had weeping angels. We had the Ood. We saw an Ood in there. We saw some Sontaran, something that looks like a Sontaran anyway. Some blue creatures that we'd never seen before, and something that looks a little bit like Chewbacca's little brother there, which is fine. You know, I'm fine with new sights and sounds. But it was all there. It was about a minute and 10 seconds worth of furious images, wasn't it? And hyper, up, almost Murray Goldish music, I thought there, Barnaby Jago. It wasn't Sagan Akinola's style of music, I felt. It was very much kind of trying to whip us up, trying to pull us into the adventure. How successful was this trailer for you, though?
I mean, high intensity music, which was good. It was definitely bombarded. I mean, I was impressed during certain moments of it. I think, lots of it does seem a lot of money has gone into it. We had battle scenes and things, and I actually really loved the design of the new Sontaran. I never really liked them. I remember seeing when they came out for what was it, Sontaran Stratagem. They were. I just hated the fact they were so short. I really didn't like the design of them at all. I thought they were too clean and too short. And I think this throwback, I mean, I'm talking as a classic fan here, obviously, but this throwback to the Pertwee era, that kind of Sontaran, to the Tom Baker era, a lot better, taller, more imposing. I think that's it's got to be a Sontaran ship, those kind of like ball shaped ones. Yeah. So I was interested by that, actually. I was really brought in by that new design. Weeping Angels. I mean, Weeping Angels are a brilliant monster, but again, it does depend what sort of plot they're in after Angels take Manhattan and all those.
They strike me as a very difficult creature to write for, Bob.
Yes,
because they don't speak.
Exactly. I mean, you've got to write them.
They don't actually want anything, do they? In the broadest sense, they don't want to take over the universe. So
no, just want to break necks.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if it's written well, that's the thing as well. I mean, but in terms of a visual design prospect, Sontaran's win for me. I think that definitely was. That got me intrigued. That's probably the most memorable thing from the trailer I took from it.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, during this era, I've thought... I can't stand, for example, Charlotte, the inside of the TARDIS. I don't think we've ever spoken about that. But I think the TARDIS console room in the Whittaker era looks like what it is. It looks like the set of a TV show. You expect Torvald and Dean to come skating across the floor. But I think it's an appalling design. Speaking as a designer myself, I've designed 3Ds. I've designed sets. I just think it's terrible. But having said that, I think that once Ray Holman took over as the production designer on the show, which I think was towards the end of Series 11, maybe even that Resolution special, I think we've seen some quite nice redesigns. I thought the Cybermen in particular back in Series 12 were really nicely done. In fact, probably the best Cyberman design of the entire new series. It's just they went and ruined them the very next episode later by creating some sort of Cyber Lord thing. Seeing his take on the Sontaran here, and just like Barnaby, I've loved the Sontarans since I was a kid. I didn't dislike the Russell T Davies era Sontaran, but it was a bold reimagining of it. This is much more in line with the classic show. I can't help but be excited by these slightly grimier looking Sontarans. Being a visual person, being somebody who's interested in design, I am partly seduced by that. I can appreciate that. What do you think about all of this? Are you the same as Barnaby and I, or will it take a lot more than this for you?
I think, if we're being fair, because I think it's not fair to be negative about everything because we don't like the core bits of this era. I agree, the music actually, that was the first thing that sort of I noticed. It was very Murray Gold. It was this sort of bombastic again. It was pomp again. It had a presence because the previous music
made you feel like shit was going to go down.
Yes, because the previous music we've had from this run has been very moody, very sort of low key, and they've been doing that in the trailers or terrible pop songs. It's been like one or the other. So the fact that we actually got a score, and like you said, you're visual. I quite like my music in television, and that's that's probably, I was spoiled a bit with Doctor Who because you can tell in previous regimes they had a lot of pride in their music and they really put a lot of emphasis on it. Whereas this run, up until this trailer, I couldn't name you any music. I couldn't hum you any themes. So that was quite impressive for me. I agree. I think they understood that you have to have a lot of sort of good images in a trailer, because that teaser thing they did a couple of weeks ago for Comic-Con, there was no monsters in it. And I commented at the time, I said, why have you not put any monsters? We recognise at least this one they've gone.
Well, there was one monster. Almost. There was one monster. She got blonde hair and wears a rainbow across. But
yes,
the scariest one of all.
It was cheap and nasty. And this one is a very typical trailer. And there's nothing remarkable about it, really. It's a lot of fast cuts images of people running here and there, people screaming or exclaiming, and various different costumes and prosthetics and spectacles. It doesn't do anything that a trailer's not supposed to do. But I think because it's a competent trailer,
yes,
and we're not used to competence from this production team, it's kind of a relief. I mean, there was one scene in it, Barnaby, I think you mentioned it earlier on, which looked like it was coming down like a bird's eye view of a battlefield with two opposing forces running at one another, where I did think, oh, okay, that looks impressive. I think that Jamie Magnus Stone is back directing the majority of these, although there is a brand new director attached to them. I can't remember his name. But so I thought, okay, I get that. I can feel that. It's making me feel something. But the rest of it, because I watched it twice, this trailer, when I watched it back, I thought there's nothing actually happening here. People are just running from one end of a set to another. A couple of the effect sequences themselves of the Doctor, Dan and Yas flying through the air looked like they were from 1990s episodes of Red Dwarf. These special effects look really cheap.
Do we actually know what kind of overall plot at all these
episodes? That's what I was going to get to. That's the sort of, if you're being fair, we didn't get it from the trailer at all. We still don't know the story from this trailer. Yeah. And I think that's a fair point to make, because yes, you need your visuals, you need your music. Like we said, this actually, and I think the reason why I think this is one of the better trailers, and then I'll get to the point about the story, there's actually a sense of threat. For the last two series, this Doctor has not been challenged at all. Even the Master, if you really think about it, he didn't really challenge her.
Apart from that surprise revelation that it was the Master, once that had gone, there was no challenge at all.
So even the big reveal, like I said about, that wasn't like a big confrontation. She was asleep for half of that episode. So it's like, she's never been challenged, this Doctor. She's never had this threat, whereas other Doctors, you would have that sense of, they're going to have to buck up their game here. They're going to have to really show their metal almost. And at least with this, it seems like she's actually been threatened when it comes to this flux or whatever it is. But we still don't know what but when it comes to an overall plot, we don't have
we don't know what the threat is, really. There's got to be, hopefully there's going to be some kind of overarching big bad at the end, but we have no idea what it is. But we
have a quote, Barnaby. We have a quote from somebody else at the BBC. This is from Matt Strevens, who is executive producer on Doctor Who. He's had the same kind of profile that Bigfoot generally keeps over the last few years. So you'll be forgiven if you've never seen a picture of Matt. But he says that I can't wait for the audience to come on the Flux ride with us. It's our biggest adventure yet, which wouldn't be hard, with so many brilliant new characters to fall in love with. We had a blast making it. That's a sweet sentiment, Matt, all joking apart. I can get on board with that. But until we have some inkling about what this story is going to be, because right now, Barnaby, I don't know if you watch this show, but when I saw this trailer, I was brought to mind the trailers that we get for a show called Star Trek Discovery, which is on the Paramount Plus network. It's obviously the latest. It's sort of the centerpiece, really, of the current clutch of Star Trek shows. And this is a show that I have bailed on. I've been watching it since the start. I loved it when it was first on. And I've watched 3 increasingly, progressively worse series go on and on and on. And each time a new series arrives of that show, I find myself, they offer me one trailer, and it seems to cast a spell on me by, when I see a trailer for it, I forget how much of a crap time I had with the show last time. And when I looked at this trailer for Series 13 of Doctor Who, for the Flux, I felt exactly the same thing. They're showing me snippets of this, flashes of that. There's lots and lots of movement. It's got that, like you described, Charlotte, it has got that sense of something is imposing, something is coming, without there being any real substance to it. Yeah, okay, they want to hold back. I get that. But I feel it was a Star Trek Discovery trailer. It's some sort of natural phenomenon, something amorphous, something that will probably be defeated within the last 20 minutes of the final episode. And
Red Angel.
And I got the same sinking feeling exactly of the Red Angel and the what was the one called? The Melt in the last series of Discovery.
I didn't watch the last series. I mean, when I sort of saw that series, when I saw the trailer for that series as well, I was like, I didn't really get excited by it like you were, Dan. I just kept thinking of what happened in the previous one and how utterly how the Red Angel and how Control was just such a disappointment. So that kind of like stuck with me there, and I had the same reaction to this trailer. I'm afraid I was impressed by certain parts of it, but I just
so was I.
It hasn't got me counting the days. It hasn't got me counting the days until it comes. But that is only because I'm one of these people who remembers. I remember what has come.
Yeah. I think that once bitten, twice shy, and 3 times, it's like it's just not going to happen. And I think you're right, Charlotte. I think this is the best trailer that's ever been put out in the Chris Chibnall era. Hands down.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But again, it's a bloody low bar, and I can appreciate. I mean, I do think that these Sontarans, I think it's an excellent redesign that we've seen so far. It's just interesting, full of texture, and very, very classic. It has a weight to it. Like I said, I wasn't against the blue ones at all. In fact, I loved them, but we had seen them several times, and there's an argument that says that with the recurring character of Strax during the Moffat era, that may have wore down the threat of the Sontarans a little. So to see them looking a bit dirty and aloof again, and alien again, and a threat again, I see where that's coming from, and I applaud the designer for the job they've done on this. But the proof has to be in the storytelling. I'd like to think that there's enough here that maybe some of the younger ones will think, oh, wow, my children aren't of that age anymore, so I don't know whether that's happened. If that's happened for you and your children in your living room, then great. I come and tell us about it. Reach out to us on social media. I'd love to know. But I don't know. I feel that the initial buzz, like eating a bag of hula hoops, it was gone. The flavour was gone almost instantaneously. And I don't think that's necessarily anything to do with my age. I'm fairly in touch with my inner child. I get excited about movie trailers all the time. I've seen the trailer for the Batman's coming, the Matt Reeves film. Ghostbusters Afterlife looks amazing. I've seen some great trailers recently. So, I want that from Doctor Who again. Hopefully I'll get it when Russell T Davies is back, once the Return of the King happens. But with this, I don't know. I feel it's too little too late, Charlotte.
Sorry, let me butt in. But also you can't trust trailers either. I mean,
no,
did anyone ever see that film Malignant?
This is a horror film that's come out recently. No, I haven't. No.
The film is frighteningly different from the trailer. I mean, the trailer makes it seem like a completely different thing. And watching the film, I'm just thinking, have I walked into the wrong theatre here? Because it was completely different from what the trailer had built up to what it was going to be. So, I don't know. Bit of a tangent there, but, grain of salt.
Yeah, I think they needed to just give a tiny bit of story. And for another comparison, if we're talking about comparisons, The Witcher Season 2 comes out in December, and they've done 2 trailers. And
that looks great.
In those trailers, you get shown where the main character Geralt has changed. He's now going back home, basically, is the feel of it. He's going back to the other Witchers. He's got Ciri with him now, which is a major difference from the last series. And you also get the vibe of they're traveling together. He's trying to protect her. So
you've got development, you've got story, you've got spectacle.
And they're very short trailers. That's my point as well. They're not these massive long trailers they've done for The Witcher. They've done 2 very short ones. And I've got enough story beats to sort of go, this is where my characters are. Because that's another point. In this whole trailer, do you get any sense to where the Doctor is at this point in her life, or where the companions are?
Charlotte, she's barely even in it. You see her running again. You just see her running around with her arms in the air, pulling funny faces, and telling us that we've got to be excited because something's coming.
Yeah, it's like think about the Capaldi when whole of his trailers was about his character. Because he was doing the whole "Am I Good Man" arc.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you were getting hints straight away of this Doctor's a bit nervous. He's a bit not sure of himself, and that's probably going to play into the series. But it was just a little snippet, and that's all we needed. And I just think, I almost feel like this would have been a really good second trailer. They should have done a more story-heavy one first, and then followed up with this one. And then
I think that's what they were trying to do with that silly sort of interference one. I think they were trying, and that's the best they could manage. Barnaby, she's right, isn't she? She's right. Yeah. It's just, oh God, who knows? Who knows? I mean, this is something that we haven't seen this since the Trial of a Time Lord. You're right, Barnaby. We haven't seen 6 episodes, so you could say it's nearly the equivalent in length of. There's 14 episodes of Trial of a Time Lord, so it's not quite matching the runtime. You could say that it's an ambitious thing to do in the 21st century with a family show. You could also say it's a very stupid thing to do with a show that has struggled to find its audience, to keep its audience over the last 2 or 3 years, people deserting it by the chunk. Literally millions of people have stopped watching this show. So I think that sci-fi fans love an umbrella story, love a multi-story arc, but I think for the casual audience, it's the kiss of death. And if all they've got to do is miss one episode, and whether it's the Weeping Angels next week or not, if they don't know what's going on, I don't think any of these creatures are enough to bring them back when they haven't warmed to that central character and when the writing's on the wall. Anyway, I'm also mystified at the fact that episode 1 will air on Sunday the 31st of October on Halloween night, but at 8:30 p.m, which means that's a school night, everybody. So who is going to keep their kids up to potentially the best part of 9:30 to see the conclusion of that? There could be families out there who are in 2 minds, but are they going to do it when it could be something that, if it's done right, admittedly, that's a big if it's done right, it could also keep them awake that night on a school night from 8:30. I think this has got disaster written all over it. And the last thing that this show needs is to start losing more viewers, because, again, the ratings there was that unprecedented decline from almost every single week, right the way from the moment that Jodie Whittaker took over. That graph went one way. We had a very, very tiny uptick for the 2 holiday, festive, whatever specials. Other than that, it's been all the way down. There should be some sort of uptick for episode 1 of this. I think there should be. If there isn't, there is something desperately wrong with this show, with the place that it's at the moment. But realistically, even if there is that uptick, Charlotte, I can't see it being maintained for a full 6 weeks. Have you got any instincts about the ratings? Where do you think that's going to go?
Well, I think they're going down because we've said this is now the 3rd series. If you've not impressed by this point, you're not suddenly going to get a load of people watching you in your 3rd series. And it almost, I agree. I think the Halloween slot is a bit of an odd one because
it's a strange one, isn't it?
It's not like it's a holiday that you could use like a Christmas because everybody's inside. No. Everybody's had the tea, they're with the family, so they do watch telly. But Halloween, they're outside. So it really is an odd one. And that time slot as well, especially if some people are thinking that's just for that episode, the 8:30, and then it's going to revert back to the usual time slot.
That's possible.
But then you're not being a stable time slot. So they're messing around with her time slot now. So
they've always kept it stable up to now, haven't they, with her? Sorry, Bob.
No, but I mean, in terms of like the date, I think it makes perfect sense because it works the same way as the Twitter thing as well. It's just no imagination behind how we're going to promote it, how we're going to set it up. Like, we'll shut down Twitter. That's how we'll do that. It's just so simplistic. Oh, what's the nearest holiday or whatever sort of day is interesting? Oh, Halloween, yes, stick it there. It just smacks of just bad planning and them just seeing, oh, what's convenient? This is convenient. No thought behind it.
Yeah, the only uptake I can see possibly are the specials because I think they're gonna have a bit more of a prestige. They're gonna market them a bit more. They've got obviously the last one tying into the centenary, so it's probably going to benefit a little bit from that. So I think. And the
truth of the matter is, Charlotte, there are people that we know, that people that are in the community, people who are actually on the panels on Type 40 Live, who haven't watched any of this era at all, but who are going to watch that last special because they can't wait to see it end. So it has got that kind of. It's been car crash TV, and I think that wherever you're coming at the material from, seeing it reach an end. Yeah, there will be an uptick for that. I think that happens when all the doctors leave. But it's all going to be very muted. And again, I know there are 4 or 5 people out there who are really excited about all of this and have loved it and looking forward to it and are going to relish every moment of it. It's lovely for you to be listening and watching for this long. We do appreciate you. And hey, come and tell us about it. Come and get in touch through our social media. Come on a show if you like. If you're a podcaster or a YouTuber, you want to have a word, you want to share your views, tell us that we've got it all right or got it all wrong. We are genuinely interested. We can only speak from the heart and see it as we see it, speak as we find, and communicate our experiences as Doctor Who fans over the last 3 or 4 years. And talking about other Doctor Who fans, everybody, before we wrap this up, I want to check in with the Type 40 Facebook group because, they've been all over this too. As the trailer and the publicity pictures have dropped, they've been following along as we have. So let's crack open the TARDIS doors and see which messages have been left for us all here from our companions and friends in the Type 40 Facebook group. Neil Pugh says, "Not going to lie, Charlotte, it's a great trailer." So that's kind of what you said. I have no hope for the TV series, but as a trailer, they have sold the show to those who maybe don't know anything about it. Just not so sure about the Wookiee, Barnaby.
Let the Wookiee win.
James Welsh says it looks pretty terrible, to be honest. So no, that's pretty no nonsense, James. David Pound adds Cybermen. That makes a refreshing change. Yeah, we've had Cybermen every season apart from Series 11, hasn't it been, Charlotte? They've been steadily all the way through.
And the Master, which I love the character, but I think that's due a rest, like the Cybermen.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Daniel Edwards adds, I can't get excited for the Chibnall era anymore. I've been let down so many times. It was a strong trailer. Let's hope the storyline and the scripts are as good. But seeing as Chibnall has written them all, I don't hold out much hope. It's the same. We keep hearing the same thing. Neil Shearer, he says it's a decent trailer, but the rainbow colours are ridiculous. The only way I will like it is if there's some severe retconning of the entire mess. As that won't happen, my view is it will be a story aimed at an audience who isn't me. Final thoughts, 6 45-minute parts, just needs good writing and good performances to pull it off and to retain any pace or interest. And we've got another one from Melina Cordero Baez, who says the trailer itself is not horrible. Again, it's the same. The trailer itself is not horrible. It's better than the others from this era. However, it feels more like a teaser. And I think at this point, they're just throwing every possible monster in out of desperation. Will Series 13 deliver? That's the question, and probably a discussion for another time. So, yeah, I mean, there's some people are able to muster the generosity that I simply can't. But the general tone is, I think, of a fan base, Barnaby, that's a little worn down.
We are. We're just worn down. And we don't ask for much. We just ask for a couple of stories that are like well written and just without just lecturing and all these strange people who have suddenly seeped into the writing group who feel they have to say these quite horrible things. So
increasingly divisive things.
Yeah. What's wrong with just being entertained? And after having to deal with that kind of trauma of those last two series, what can they do to incentivize us back? You incense us, get us back in, but they're just not really doing that, I'm afraid.
I think when anybody who's interested in the brand, Charlotte, is wanting to press fast forward on at least 6, possibly 9 episodes.
Yeah, it's not just the weariness though. It's the fan experience we've had for the last 5 years. Because for some of us who have, whether that's been on socials or on streams, who have talked about it and have had a negative approach, have had a negative, like, we've not loved it, we've had criticisms, or we don't like certain bits of it. We've basically had 5 years, and I can talk from a personal point, of being attacked, of being called everything underneath the sun because we've got that opinion. So it's hard at a point not to associate that nastiness with the show. And I think that you're seeing that as well, like the fans who have had that experiences are just for their own sake. They either struggle to have a positive approach, even when we've said a trailer is better than what we've had in the past, and I can fully understand that. But it's just like, it's been hard. And I hate having to say this. It's like, I'm a fan of a show. I shouldn't have to be talking about this stuff. I should just be able to watch my show and have fun with my mates.
Yeah.
But you've not been able to do that because of, like Barnaby has said, some of the production staff, some of the writers, some of the actors have all come out at a point and had a pop or have said something
unnecessarily adversarial, aggressive, divisive, patronising, and disrespectful of the fact that in the majority of cases still they're speaking to the very people who pay their wages, who pay the TV licence, as is compulsory still for the moment in the UK. I can't help but thinking that will change sooner rather than later too. But this is one of the reasons why you can't speak to your audience in that way. I think when it comes to the fan base, I'm listening all the time. I listen to a lot of other content makers, for example, and I've been listening with great interest how on this show we have always spoken the truth as we see it, our genuine opinions, whether they've been popular or not. And sometimes we've been lambasted for it and tagged unfairly as something or someone we're not here at Type 40. But I've noticed that just in the last few weeks, since the news of Russell T Davies coming on board in particular, but this happened when Jodie's announcement as leaving, it happened a little then, but when Russell came on board, it's been the floodgates has opened, and all of a sudden, lots of content makers and YouTubers and podcasters, hello out there, are all saying, I've never liked this era after all.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I hate to say this, but we were one of very few voices that were speaking about this honestly. The amount
it was cool, thank you.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, guys, it's better late than never, but it would have been nice to have had a little more public support over the last 2 or 3 years. But yeah, I think we should check in a little with people that we love and people that we respect from times past, because as the times are indeed changing with Doctor Who, the cast will too, and this being a big legacy show, and we love the old actors that have been in the show. You know, we relish any opportunity to drag them back to the TARDIS, don't we? And we ask them about the prospects of that at every opportunity. This week, it was the premiere of the new Edgar Wright movie last night in Soho, which stars, or co-stars, one Matt Smith, who you may remember played the Doctor very successfully, brilliantly in fact, on Doctor Who. But as he was going into the premiere, somebody cornered the poor bloke on the red carpet and asked him the question.
Proud of this film. I'm really proud of Edgar, who's such a fabulous filmmaker, so I had a great time.
And talking about going back in time, could we see you going back to the Doctor anytime soon?
Doubt that. You never know.
Okay, see you later.
I love they just sneak that in and he's just like out of there.
Did you see the smile on his face?
Yeah, he loves it. I'm really looking forward to seeing that actually. Last night, so that looks amazing.
Yeah, he looks like he's having a blast in it. Charlotte, hello, Matt. He's your Doctor, really, isn't he?
Yes.
I get the impression he's very much your Doctor.
Yeah,
so the way that smile spread across his face, I don't think he's ruled it out.
Well, no, I don't think he has, because he's been doing, like, through the last couple of years, he's been popping up on streams and doing little, like, events with Tennant, like, a few different things. And you can tell his love has never gone for the show.
Yeah.
You can tell he adores when he was the Doctor. And if you think about it, he's got a lot to be thankful for to do with the show. Because before he got the 11th Doctor, he was known, but he was a very sort of up-and-coming actor. He'd done a few things, and Doctor Who launched him. It made him a household name, so he's got a lot to be thankful for. But I think he just genuinely loves the show, and I think for a 60th, if the schedules work for him, because he's got like a HBO show, he's quite busy at the moment, which I'm so chuffed about. I think if the timing was right, I think he would be back in a heartbeat. And it would be very interesting to see, actually, a more mature Matt come back and play his Doctor again. Because, like I said, that was the start of his sort of big career.
I can so imagine it, Charlotte. I really can imagine him playing the Doctor again. I feel there was gas left in that tank. I sincerely do. Oh,
yeah, because what I love about him and why he's my Doctor is he was the Doctor where I first proper saw the age of the Time Lord, of the Doctor. In his eyes, I've always said, if you want to really appreciate Matt's Doctor, look at his eyes, because there's so much going on there, and it's not dialogue. And I think it's one of the best sort of, I call it non-verbal acting we've ever had. So I think for him to sort of bring that back, that sort of old man as well in a young man's body, and I think also he was very good at dark, which is why I'm happy he's playing like villainous roles now, because I think he'll do really well. So I just would love him. Like, I'd be happy anyway because he's my Doctor, but I just think he would be a really interesting person to come back and what he would bring.
It would be really interesting. We've got a quote from David Tennant as well. Somebody's been asking David Tennant to, Barnaby, check this out. So Tennant says, it all depends. The moment you say yes to Doctor Who, even before you've done an episode, you're being asked whether you go back after you finish. Because there's that element of fantasy, anything is ultimately possible. You should never say never to anything. I think that way madness lies. That's again, Tennant, total sci-fi fan, total Doctor Who nerd. He knew exactly what he was getting into, didn't he, Barnaby?
Oh yeah, well, he'd been trying to get into it for ages. He was in Scream of the Shulker, just as playing just one character, only because he was recording in the studio next door, and then just came in. He's always been a huge fan of it, and he's a brilliant Doctor. But that is that statement there is very much a saying nothing. But
saying something, but saying nothing as well.
It would be interesting. Oh, sorry. It would be interesting though to see. It would be interesting though to see if Chris Chibnall, let's say, they get him to write if the 60th anniversary special. He won't be writing that, will he?
No, that's Russell. He's starting.
That will be Russell.
That's his first sort of bat.
I almost wish that they would bring back Matt and David for that if Chibnall was writing it, because then we would be able to see whether it is a choice of like bad writing or just bad acting, of whether or not this Doctor is just kind of, all over the place. Because then we've got two characters you can, because I still think you can make bad dialogue entertaining, like you said, Charlotte, through the eyes, and just through like non-verbal stuff as well. But no, he won't be doing the 60th thing. That's my own element of fantasy, my own way that madness lies. David, thank you.
Oh, God. Doctor Who is back, everybody. It starts on BBC One in the UK, and in America, it airs on BBC America. Series 1 to 12 are all available still, so you can binge those or revisit whatever you wish. If you would choose to revisit earlier episodes of the series, that's up to you. But yeah, Series 1 to 12 are available on HBO Max. But Doctor Who Flux, as Series 13 is going to be known, it stars Jodie Whittaker, Mandip Gill, John Bishop and Jacob Anderson. And it premieres on October the 31st, 2021, running over 6 consecutive weeks. We'll be here talking about it here on Type 40. Get in touch. Let us know what you think. Get involved. Let us know in the comments section and across our social media. That's the old girl calling out from out of the vortex, calling time on another edition of Type 40. But I'll be back with another chunk of cult conversation soon. Look out for that wherever you found this. It could have been on the home for Type 40, that dedicated home feed, type40.podbean.com. It could have been on Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We've just joined Podbay too and various other places. We're also on YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform. Here on the Spacebook's YouTube channel, we're still on the fabulous Fandom Podcast Network's master feed. Of course we are. You heard all about that earlier on, loaded with so many other treats for your ears daily. Maybe you'd like to get in touch with us here at Type 40. You can reach out to us through our social media, Instagram and Twitter, at Type 40 Doctor Who, or you can email us, type40doctorwho@gmail.com. And if you're feeling really, really brave, everybody, and fancy some real-time, extra-dimensional chit-chat with beings from throughout the Whoniverse, you can head over to Facebook and join the Type 40 Facebook group, where there's Doctor Who fans of all generations, genuinely sharing and chatting and sometimes arguing about all things new and classic. Having a lot of fun. 5 years now, that's all been going on over there. There's always some interesting discussion to be had in the Type 40 Facebook group. And with a brand new series about to drop, that's only going to escalate. I can feel it in my water. Charlotte, if people want to get in touch with you and hear some more from you, do you do social media? Where can they connect with you or see you or hear you?
Well, I'm not on Twitter. I sort of glance at it because I know what it's like. But if you want to listen to me, I'm on YouTube, and as Dan said, I'm part of the Type 40 Live, usually is where you'll find me. And sort of my co-host, and I want to give him a shout because he's a friend I found through this era, is Daniel Leach. He's got a YouTube channel and we do a lot of streams together, which is a mixture as well. It's a variety. It's a bit of Who right now. It's a lot Line of Duty. We're sort of doing a whole load of things there. So listen to me there.
A bit of everything. Chat with Daniel and Charlotte there on YouTube. Good stuff. It's good, wholesome conversation. And I haven't seen the Line of Duty stuff because I don't want to get the spoilers for that show, because I do intend on. I'm terrible for this, Barnaby.
I've just finished it, Charlotte, as well. I've just finished the last series.
Have you watched it all now?
Have you not seen it all yet?
No, I've watched it all. I'm saying of you now.
I loved it though. I loved it. Adrian Dunbar. He'd make a good Doctor, actually. I wouldn't.
Oh, he would. Yeah, he's a fantastic actor.
See, I think Martin Constant. I think he'd make a good Doctor.
Oh, that is interesting. Oh, I don't know. I'd always want a bit of Adrian. I'd love a bit of Adrian in that. I think it'd be perfect.
Apparently, he was in a Big Finish audio with Paul McGann. They had a blast doing that. They're old friends.
Do you know which one at all?
I did know, and I can't quite remember. It was one of the earlier ones with Sheridan Smith as Lucy Miller. I'll let you know after the show. But where can people hear more from you, get in touch with you on social media, Barnaby? And you have a YouTube channel too, don't you?
I have a YouTube channel. It's just called Barnaby, so easy to remember that one. I am on Twitter, so you can search for me there. Just search for Barnaby Jago on Twitter. And I'm also on the Type 40 podcast, where I join in on all the geeky and nerdgasms. It's lovely.
Yes, don't miss any of that. Both Type 40 and Type 40 Live, just like Charlotte said, that's back soon for more brand new live stream madness. Lots of the usual kind of stuff there with all the usual crowd. And we always like to shake things up a little on Type 40 Live. You can get podcast editions of those shows too on type40.podbean.com on that actual dedicated Type 40 feed, or over on YouTube. Don't miss any of that. But yeah, that wraps it up this time. Wherever you sit on the Jodie Whittaker era, and whether you're looking forward to Series 13 or not, whether you're even going to watch it or not, hey, we can watch it so you don't have to. It all works for us, whichever way you want it to go. But yeah, that is all we've got time for this time. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40. Thanks very much for your time. Bye-bye. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.